Senate clears ministerial nominees after hours of questioning. Lawmakers pour encomiums on Speaker Gbajabiamila on his 60th birthday. Senate will go on to investigate allegations raised by 14 Supreme Court justices. And also on the program.
So I haven't bothered to do that, but I've focused on things that will impact positively on the lives of the people.
I'll ask Honourable Mark Gbillah why he is strongly opposed to the water resource bill. You're watching the Hallowed Chambers on TVC News. I am Tijesu Adiri. President Muhammadu Buhari's ministerial nominees got a clean bill of health when they were screened at the Senate on Wednesday. One after the other, they answered questions bordering on current national issues to the satisfaction of senators. At the end, they were told to take a bow and go.
I definitely will see myself being on loan to the executive arm of government because the parliament being an arm that has no tenure for any politician will continue to be a common room for all of us to go and to come back. And so that will make me definitely going to see myself as an ambassador of the legislature. And I want to pledge that at any point in time, legislative issues come up at that arm of government, I will take on the side of protecting the parliament because it is my primary constituency.
I attended my primary school in Calabar, Ejali Primary School. And when I finished in 1971, I obtained the first school leaving certificate with distinction. I proceeded to St. Patrick's College, the famous St. Patrick's College in 1972, and graduated in 1976. Again, I earned the West African School Certificates, Division 1. Incidentally, I was the best graduating student in my site. That same year, I was admitted to read economics in the University of Calabar. By 1980, I graduated with a BSc Honours in Economics, second class upper division. On account of my performance, I was awarded the University of Calabar Foundation Scholarship.
What do you think we should do to earn more foreign exchange, especially in the area that we have worked, so that we reduce our level of borrowing? Because
I think this is one of the best appointments that I've seen so far made because of my knowledge of whom this man is. A lot has been said about him, but I think it's just good for some of us who are not from Niger Delta and from Akwa Ibom to add our voice to the fact that, Mr. President, this is one of the best Nigerians I've ever met.
The Senate is sending a delegation to the United Kingdom to meet with the embattled Senator Ekweremadu and his wife. The delegation will also make efforts to ensure the former Deputy Senate President facing allegations of organ harvesting gets justice.
the Senate in the closed session was briefed on the arrest of our colleague, distinguished Senator Ekweremadu, the former Deputy President of the Senate in London. I had a personal engagement with our Nigerian High Commissioner to Britain, Alhaji Shola Sarafa, who has done so well to establish contact with our colleague, who has been able to get his team to be in the court in Uxbridge, where Senator Ekweremadu was taken to.
For the House of Representatives, they have invited the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Acting Comptroller General of Immigration and the Director General of the National Identity Management Commission to unravel the circumstances surrounding the arrest and detention of Senator Ekweremadu in the United Kingdom.
We cannot have a situation where a simple allegation that has not been thoroughly investigated will result in a high-ranking public officer who has served and is still serving the Nigerian public, the Nigerian state, and he has a diplomatic passport, Mr. Speaker. So we cannot allow this to happen.
I plead with honourable colleagues to support this motion, to lend our voice, to call on Nigerians to be cautious of how they tarnish people's image just for something, because the authorities from London or anywhere, or Metropolitan Police, somebody reported to them. We're not saying they should not do investigation. They are doing their work. We should not even condemn our distance, because they are going to judge based on documents and evidence before them.
And nobody should be subject to any jeopardy, or even a double one, when those investigations are not complete.
We will all do well to remember that a criminal charge does not constitute a conviction or conclusive proof of guilt. This is merely the beginning of a judicial process to substantiate the facts of the allegation and gather sufficient evidence to sustain the charges therein.
No respite yet for the former Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Tanko Muhammad, over allegations of mismanaging funds and neglecting the welfare of judges. The Senate says these are serious issues that cannot be made to go away easily. The Upper Legislative Chamber have now mandated its Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters to investigate the allegations made by 14 justices of the Supreme Court.
The Senate further observes that the committee is taking steps to look into the matter as directed by the President of the Senate by making arrangements to interface with relevant stakeholders, both at the bar and on the bench.
Senator Ekweremadu
is a co-equal arm of government. The creation of the Constitution just the way we are and just the way the executive is. And Mr. President, is very, very, very embarrassing. We don't hear of these complaints in the executive arm. People being told to, in the executive to close offices at 4 p.m. and go home. Not even here in the National Assembly.
Where judiciary is weak, then the pillar upon which our democracy is resting will definitely appear to be weak.
On Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters to go ahead with his assignment in the quest to find a lasting solution to the matter by interacting with relevant stakeholders to look into the complaints raised in the petition by the justices of the Supreme Court. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay, that is aye.
Encomiums and goodwill messages are pouring in abundance for the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Gbajabiamila, on his 60th birthday. Eminent Nigerians from across all walks of life paid glowing tribute to the Speaker. My colleague, Joke Adisa, reports.
Encomiums from political associates, family members and well-wishers as the 13th Speaker of Nigeria's House of Representatives, Gbajabiamila, hits the Diamond Jubilee. President Muhammadu Buhari describes the celebrator as an astute politician and a dependable ally.
For him, what matters is not so much the party differences, but what unites Nigeria and Nigerians.
For the APC presidential flag bearer, Gbajabiamila has grown to become a thoroughbred politician dedicated to the growth of humanity. Bola Tinubu envies the lofty relationship between the Speaker and his deputy, Ahmed Idris, as he continues the search for a formidable running mate for the presidential election.
As a minority leader, he consults widely and is always there to see the thinking of opposition that we must bring a revolution to the House to be able to defeat the PDP.
Others, no less, pay glowing tributes to the fifth-term member of the House of Representatives.
Not many parliamentarians have the opportunity of being the opposition leader and driving the ruling party. And so you have done both very effectively.
Femi is one of us, age-wise, age bracket, but he's extremely outstanding.
For the man that is the signature of all eyes, his 60th birthday is a good time to further contribute to humanity. Having benefited from the wisdom and guidance of mentors, he is now sponsoring Legislative Mentorship Initiative, a youth leadership development program to identify, equip, and empower young people.
Just as important that we try to tell our own stories for their own sake. And I hope that if nothing else, the work that the authors have done here will inspire many of you to begin writing your own history.
Congratulations, ma'am. Congratulations, Mr. President.
High point of the celebration is the unveiling of a book, Mr. Speaker, and Legislative Mentorship Initiative, in recognition of Femi Gbajabiamila's exemplary leadership style as first among equals in the 9th House of Representatives.
Joining me now on the program is Honourable Mark Gbillah, representing Gwere East, Gwere West Federal Constituency of Benue State. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much.
Share with us your experience in the last 3 years as a member of the 9th National Assembly.
The years of the military junta has made Nigerians not understand what democracy is. And the fulcrum, the bastion of democracy in any country is the legislature. And unless Nigerians start to understand that, they'll be doing themselves a disservice. Let me put it that way. One of the critical things is the misunderstanding about what it is that we do here and the amount of demands that they make because of the erroneous beliefs about resources and income that the people is one of the first things I realized. I realized I was doing much better in my private business than in the house, but Nigerians don't even understand that. I'll give you an analogy which is important to make on this program. This year's budget is about 17 trillion. The budget for the National Assembly, which encompasses the Senate, the House of Reps, the National Assembly Commission, the running of the committees, the National Assembly, National Institute of Legislative Studies, the civil service in the National Assembly, everything all together, and then our aides, salaries, and all of that. The entire budget is 128 billion. Now that is less than 1% of this year's budget. The same thing with the legislature, about less than 1%. So that means that in the next 10 years, if you don't pay the National Assembly, if you don't budget any money, it will not be up to 10% of the budget of just 1 year. Now, Nigerians need to understand, so when you start to talk about end NAS pay, you see, this is what I mean by the misconception that they have. And I took time to emphasize this because this is fundamentally why Nigerians are not rallying around the National Assembly the way they should, and to understand that those things they see on social media are erroneous, they are not correct, and they need to be able to understand this so that we can partner with the Nigerians to put up the kind of legislation and the kind of superintendence of the executive. So every year the executive sits with 98-point-something% of the budget. Little wonder Nigerians should now know where corruption really happens in Nigeria. And that is where we come in as a legislature to provide the oversight over the executive arm where a lot of this corruption occurs.
Overall, let's x-ray your representation as a federal legislator and a 3-time member of the National Assembly.
First and foremost, I would say that I have been keen on representation with regards to the issues that concern the people in my constituency. And that has to be primarily, obviously, the issue of insecurity that has bedeviled particularly my local government of Gwe West, and that has also affected certain aspects of the other local government that I also represent, and of course the generality of my people in Benue State, because we've had that issue across several local governments in Benue. So that's one of the issues that I looked at foremost as something that I felt that I needed to address, and I believe that I have also been able to make a significant impact in that regard, and also with regards to some intervention from the National Emergency Management Agency. On 3 or so occasions, I was able to get some needed intervention on their behalf. And of course, regardless of all the odds, specifically with regards to the issue of the IDPs as well, I also made a case, and it's something that the House is in the process of hearing about how to resettle the IDPs, which is an issue that is also very dear to my heart and is also very paramount to Benue as a state.
Party primaries have come and gone, but the fallout is everywhere. We are seeing defections among lawmakers. How did it go for you?
It's quite unfortunate, and we take a lot of the blame in this regard. And that is why I talked earlier about the fact that in this 9th Assembly, there was an extremely palpable amount of partisanship that even affected the process of passing and considering legislation, where any ounce of dissent or opposition was met with complete, antagonism.
You're saying that because you belong to the opposition?
Yes, obviously. Because I'm saying that not just because I belong to opposition, because I am a Nigerian who feels that every issue that has to do with my compatriots should be handled properly. So I'm talking specifically about that error in the Electoral Act. All of you are usually on the floor when everything is carried. Nobody takes time to look through the details. It was embarrassing to some of us. A lot of the things that are handled in the House sometimes are supposed to go through every member of the related committees, but doesn't seem to be that way. So we have a lot of complicity in what affected us at the end of the day. Let me start by saying that. So it is not just all the blame on other people. So we ended up carrying out primaries, critical primaries that affect the nation, just based on ad hoc delegates who usually don't have a stake in the party. This was a very serious flaw. The exco of the parties were exempted. These are the main people who are partisan people who understand the contributions of representatives of those who are running for the primaries, who understand the impact of what their decisions will be. They all were exempted. So the people who are now left were very prone to manipulation. So some of us got affected, and obviously this issue always stems from the decisions governors make that also affect those that are concerned. So I too got affected, and had to recourse to seeking another platform, which I'm in the process of consummating, to allow me to still actualize, my conviction, because it's not an ambition, it's a conviction that some of us are still necessary to be involved in this process of our democracy and being able to really show a semblance of what true representation is.
Can these challenges be traced to the indirect primaries?
Yes, that too, like the speaker mentioned, is a very critical aspect of it, because that in the indirect primary system, there is a very, very serious issue of inducement, and monetary inducement for that matter. Now, this is something that we have to be honest and sincere about, and it's destroying our democracy. That, I must tell you, is one of the issues we have in the democratic structure. We have our style of indirect primaries. It doesn't give a true representation of the wishes of the people. And that is why the House chose and preferred and drove the process of of direct primaries of being the option where the party members who have a stake in their constituency can also be part of what decisions are made. But unfortunately, Nigerians who are participating in indirect primaries always come there with the notion of being remunerated, being compensated. And unfortunately, this has totally destroyed the democratic experience and the democratic process in our country. And it's something we really need to supervise.
Many years after the Oasis Committee recommended the creation of Electoral Offences Commission and Tribunal, it appears that dream is coming true.
First and foremost, let us thank God. Like they say, it is better late than never. And I want to assure Nigerians that we are not going to rest on our oars to make sure that this bill is passed before we commence budgetary preparations for the next year, and then the onus will now be on Mr. President and his ruling party to show Nigerians that they are sincere about ensuring the transparency of the electoral process.
What about the water resource bill you strongly rose against?
It's a very controversial bill that we have to, as legislators and even as a country, be very wary of, because we do not know the intendment of it. The aspect that is controversial and completely unacceptable to us, especially for us in Benue, is the fact that the initial draft of the bill was seeking to cede land along littoral states, along waterways across the country, about 3 kilometers inland to the federal government. Now that is completely unacceptable. We know the provisions of the land use decree which vest the ownership of land, under the state governors, under the states. We agree that for riverine areas, for waterways that traverse several states like River Benue, the federal government will be involved in the inland waterway monitoring and development. But that is the waterway. We do not agree to ceding land within the territory in any way whatsoever. You can imagine the speaker himself is even one of those who will be most affected. What will he go and tell his constituents? That they are ceding land across Lagos. You can imagine that to the federal government. To do what? And this is where we start to suspect this is a back way to come and introduce Ruga, so that they start to send Fulani herdsmen across the whole country because the government has the power to do so. We are not in support of that.
But the governors are in charge of states.
Let me start by saying that my governor, Governor Samuel Otom, has not, in my own knowledge, endorsed the bill. And if he has done so, he would have communicated that to us, his representatives in the House of Representatives. And so I am not questioning, the statement of my colleague. I'm just saying that I am not informed. Until I am informed, before I will know what decision to make. That is one. Then secondly, with all due respect to our governors, they have their own mandate and we have ours. And this is the point that I made clear on the floor to the Right Honourable Speaker and to my colleagues. It is our own responsibility to make laws that will be binding on our country. It is not the responsibility of the governors. The governors are part of the executive and we are the legislators. It is our job. We are eminently qualified. That's why we are elected in that position. We have qualifications also educationally that give us every resource that we need.
The Speaker celebrated his 60th birthday during the week. What is your assessment of his personality?
Okay, I was one of the first actually that wished Mr. Speaker a happy birthday, I think at the break of midnight, and to let him know that he was thought of, and to let him know that even though some of us didn't support him at the onset, we have come to accept him as a speaker, and we think that he has done well. There has been a lot of intervention for members that didn't occur in the 8th Assembly. That is commendable. And he has been able to superintend landmark legislation, the PIA, the Electoral Act, which is worthy of commendation. So I wish him well. It's also worthwhile to congratulate him on the launching of the book, also that was part of the commemoration of his birthday. We wish him many more years and more opportunities to contribute to the development of our country.
That is our program for the week. You can see this episode again on TVC News YouTube channel. Also watch a repeat broadcast on Sunday, 7 a.m. Thank you for watching. I am Judiciary. See you next time.